someone says, oh, we ought to impeach this person, it's submitted to a committee to decide whether or not they're actually going to do it. The committee then says, yes, we want to impeach this person. It goes to the full House. The full House votes on it, and that's what just happened. Was the House voted to do an impeachment.
On Tuesday, the House voted in a unanimous bipartisan vote to impeach Commonwealth's attorney Ronnie Lee Goldie Jr. He's accused of doing favors for a woman facing prosecution in exchange for nude photos of her. Goldie was suspended last September.
We are the triers of fact. We are to be considered jurors.
The Senate is responsible for trying the impeachment.
We need to be fair, neutral, and detached as jurors of this type of proceeding. Set it for basically a trial, in layman's terms, to come to the well of the Senate and in the Senate chamber.
Additionally, the Constitution prohibits any person who has been impeached and removed from holding any office of honor, trust, or profit under this Commonwealth. While Goldie resigned on Wednesday, his resignation will not go into effect until the end of the month.
This has been a conditional resignation, effective only on a certain date. So there can always be a withdrawal or revocation, I understand, of a resignation. So from communications I had with my general counsel, that's why they proceeded to move it forward and send it to the Senate.
In Frankfort, Samantha Valentino, WKYT.